Alright, this is the M1Max chip and I went with 16-inch instead of 14 after seeing some more testing and research on the YouTube. So the 16-inch has the benefit of thermal throttling as well as better heatsink issues. Also the 16-inch M1 Max has the double encoders for ProRes. So it's better for video editing applications. So I went with this. What's the best way to see which MacBook Pro, M1 Pro or M1 Max, what configuration is best for you? There is already a lot of testing and comparison on YouTube, but it depends purely on what is your need. So the best way to test that out is to see what you do typically and monitor the GPU, CPU and memory performance and see if it's maxing out. And if it does, then return the laptop, get the next version. So my point of view is get the one that you think you need, and then when you perform your day-to-day work, video editing or 3D rendering, monitor the CPU, GPU and the memory and see if it maxes out to the limit. And if it does, then get the next version and return the current version, because you got up to 14 days to return to Apple with no questions asked. So why not use that opportunity? So I know it is a hassle, but I'm just thinking that's the worst case scenario where you got a 16 GB, 16 GPU machine and maybe it's maxing out already with your applications. Then it's already expensive, so you should have an option to increase the GPU or memory and get the next configuration. So we are going to test it out in this video, taking this recording and see if it maxes out or not. So I'm going to edit this video here and I'll show you how to monitor the GPU, CPU and the memory to see if it maxes out in these circumstances. Let me take the memory card out of it, go into Davinci and we'll do a screen recording while I'm editing. So this machine should be able to process it without an issue. So we will see. Alright, so now the core efficiency out of the 10 core completely red. So it's maxed out. We have plenty available at the bottom. I'm recording the screen. I'm recording the voice here. Now let's minimize that. The memory used is 12. So now when I bring up the Davinci 13, if I go to cut page, the memory is almost 16 GB, so nothing swapped. That's good news, but I'm sure when we start editing or playing it back, this will go up. Yeah, it's very close to 16 GB. So if you're planning to get this for video editing, don't go with the 16 GB because again, this is just one stream 4K, one camera. You should typically will have music, B-roll sequence and all that. So using the memory pretty heavy. The GPU not that much, I would say half. So that's the GPU and this is the CPU. So now let's do some color correction. The GPU is like almost maxing out at 32 GPU. So I have the maximum, but you can see how it is utilizing all of it. CPU not too much. We have plenty of cores available. Let's see with the activity monitor what's going on there. So you can see while it's playing here, the memory is already 17 GB utilized. I'll not bore you with all the editing, so I'll keep monitoring, and when you're ready to render, then I'll come back and record the screen again and see how that performs. Alright, so here I have sped up the timeline. I'm actually editing here, and on the left side you can see I have kept the activity monitors on for CPU, GPU and memory. So this is a single track 4K video on the timeline. I'm just cutting it out and playing in real time, and I have not enabled any proxy. It's a full resolution playback. And you can see the core efficiency CPUs, the 10 cores, black windows on the left. It's not being stressed out, so that's a good thing. And at the bottom, the Apple M1 Max built-in GPU, the blue bars, that's also at half level. Again, this is 32 core GPU. And at the bottom left, you would see in the table, the second line memory used. It's constantly between 18 and 19 GB and no swap used. So I think under 20 GB memory is what it is using for single track. So now let's render it and see. Alright, so I just finished up editing the first segment that I shot in the morning. And right now the computer is going through some updates and it should be restarting in a minute. All right, now the operating system is updated to 12.0.1. I think in the morning when I opened the box it was 12.0.0. So obviously I had issues rendering Davinci and I had to go back and do it in Final Cut. So with this update, I think it should get resolved. But overall, the idea was to show how much memory and CPU and GPU was utilized when I had a 4K clip and going through my editing process to see how it performed. So overall, I did not see any time the laptop using up more than 20 gigabyte, whether it be during editing or during the rendering. So either way, I did not see that going up anywhere close to 30 GB. So I think 32 GB should be plenty. But again, if you have more complex edit such as multicam with maybe 8 different cameras and you line up, then obviously the more the better. So 64 GB, if that's the max you can go, you should do it. But you should know the workflow, what you're using. And if you're just like me posting on YouTube video, then there is no reason to go beyond 32 GB. That should be plenty enough memory. I would highly recommend for video editors to go with the M1Max 16-inch because of the dual encoders available. So that's good to have. So you can always edit multiple encoders at the same time in the same timeline, and processor will have enough memory to chuck through those. So overall, I'm happy. The rendering is obviously super fast, but my test was to see whether what I got as 32 GB is good enough to process a typical workflow that I would have. And what I found was 16 GB is definitely not enough if you are into video editing, but if you are just regular browsing, email and stuff like that for normal user, then 16 GB should be plenty and more than plenty, I would say. But the moment I opened up Davinci Resolve or Final Cut Pro, then I always saw that it's close to 20 GB of memory being utilized, and no SSD memory has been swapped to compensate for memory overflow. So that's good news. So 32 GB is plenty enough for me, and that was the purpose of this video. We will do more editing. Even this last segment here, I have to put it back, and with the update I have to see how it performs. Thanks again for watching. If you like this video, give it a like. If you would like to see more testing and comparison, let me know in the comment section below, or any questions you may have I can answer. And if you are interested in this type of content, then stay subscribed. Click on the bell notification so you'll be notified the moment I post onto YouTube. All right, take care. See you then.